Hi, welcome to AP Daily, Computer Science Principles, Topic 3.13, Developing Procedures. My name is Bradley Bearden, and I teach at Dadeville High School in Dadeville, Alabama. And I would like to invite you to invite a friend to take computer science. So, what will we learn in today's video? We will focus on developing procedural abstractions, and we're going to have to write those procedures. So looking at code and abstracting out uh, a procedure from that code. So just as a reminder, a procedure is a named group of programming instructions that serves a purpose. And really we have two types of procedures, or we break it into two categories: procedures that return a value, some type of data, and then procedures that just execute a block of statements. So also, I want you to make sure that you're familiar with the exam reference sheet for working with robots in a grid. Let's start by looking at an example. Suppose that we have a program segment, and here's how it's supposed to work. If you retake a quiz and you get a higher grade on the quiz, and that current attempt is a higher grade than the grade you have on the quiz already, then it's supposed to update that quiz grade. And we want to be able to use this code for multiple students and teachers. All right, now, so take a look at the code on the bottom, and you should notice some similarities. It's going to take whatever the current points on the final were and use that to calculate the grade on the final. And then if that grade is higher than the quiz, not final, sorry, quiz, if that grade is higher than the quiz grade, it will replace the quiz grade. So when you're picking a procedure, it seems like a small thing, but it is probably one of the most important things that you'll do is you really need to name your procedure well. You may come back to this months later and you really need to know what your procedure does. So you want to pick a name that's descriptive and reflects the purpose of your uh, procedure. And in this case, we're basically updating the quiz grade. So I chose update quiz. And you may notice the camel case in the way that we name it. Each new word is a capital letter. But that's a very important part that sometimes is overlooked. So make sure when you're writing a procedure that you really name it well. All right. After we get a name for the procedure, we need to think about, do I need any parameters for this procedure? And the way I like to think about that is, what kind of data would I need to take in to accomplish my goal? What kind of information am I going to need? Well, remember, we're going to need the old quiz grade. So, uh, so we can know what the quiz average would be. So if you'll notice on the left, quiz grade showed up several times. And so that could be one of our parameters. We also need to know the current points on our final, like how many points the person scores. And you'll notice that as well in each of the segments on the left. However, we also need to know how many points the quiz was out of. So that would be total points. And even though you don't see it really listed as a variable on the left, it does change. You see 40, you see 50, you see 25. And so those are all needed in order for me to get an average and then use that to replace the quiz grade if it's higher. Uh, Now you may have noticed on the left that current grade shows up, but I don't need to put current grade as a parameter because I can use the parameters that I already have to calculate my current grade. So that's given some thought about what data we need to use as our parameters. And now we need to actually go through and write this procedure. So the first thing we would do is we would take in those current points that matches the parameter and the total points. And we would want to divide those to get our current grade, just as I was talking about a second ago. That number would be like a decimal. So we times it by 100. So it actually looks like a grade. And then if that current grade is higher than the quiz grade given to us, we will assign current grade to quiz grade. Now, this procedure really needs to return a grade if we're going to update that quiz. If it returns the old grade, then that's fine. But if it returns the new grade, then that grade will be higher for the student. So we want to make sure that we return quiz grade. All right. So make sure you take a second and look back of all the things that kind of went into taking that code that we saw kind of reused and adapting and adjusting that to make a procedure. All right. So now we're going to practice. So here we have a robot in a grid of squares. That robot's represented by a triangle, and I want a procedure that will rotate the robot 180 degrees. So remember to check for the correct commands. I want you to pause the video and try to write a procedure that will accomplish this. All right, let's see how we did. Did you give it a good name? A descriptive name? And then I had rotate right, because if you rotate right, that turns them around 180. It turns the robot around, 180 degrees. And then you might have chosen rotate left, rotate left. All right. So that was an easy one to get you started. So now I got a little harder one I want you to try. And in this case, I want to write a procedure that would allow the robot to detour around a block, such as here, by going around it on the left-hand side. So I want you to pause the video and see if you can write a procedure that will accomplish this. All right, let's see how we did and see if what I have matches yours. So I chose detour left as my name since we're going to go around the left-hand side. And I started with rotate left, and then I moved forward, rotated right, moved forward, rotated right, moved forward, rotated left. It's really easy to get stuck on the right to the left there, so just make sure we had everything correct. But hopefully you gave it a good name, and hopefully you gave it a set of instructions that would allow the robot to go around the block. All right, so what should we take away? We should be able to look at code and recognize the purpose of that code, abstract out that purpose and really focus in on that code, and then take it and write a procedure. And that might be like with the robots that we did, or it might be similar code that we reuse that we take and write a procedure out of. But you should be able to write procedures, and that helps manage the complexity of the program. Thank you.